Hi, I'm Terrence O'Rourke and welcome to this video. I usually do travel write-ups, but this time I'm going to try a travel vlog or video blog, as the old people call it. So what I want to do today is talk to you about a trip I made to Colorado Springs to visit my nephew Andrew and his partner Christina and their dog Ruby. So that was during the week after Labor Day. We did some hiking in the area, but the main goal was to get out to the Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park in western Colorado. That's in between the towns of Gunnison and Montrose, out that way. It was about a 4.5 hour drive without road closures, so a good scenic drive, as you'll see with the pictures, and also beautiful, beautiful place. Stunning views. I have to tell you that every time I saw it, I still had to catch my breath and make a noise of some sort because it's just so awe-inspiring what nature can do. So sit back and enjoy the video and the pictures, a bit of a mix of both, and I'll be commentating as I have often done in the past. All right? The trip started with Andrew picking me up at the airport on Sunday morning, and we went for brunch downtown Denver. Then on Monday, we went for a hike in the Cascade region with Ruby. There's beautiful views. It was a pretty steep ascent, but Ruby got overheated relatively quickly, and we had to turn around after about an hour. Still, you get a good view of just the general area of Colorado Springs. Then Tuesday morning we left and stopped at the Garden of the Gods, which is a beautiful, beautiful spot just right outside of Colorado Springs and free to just wander around in. We didn't have much time, so we just took a few pictures and wandered slightly. Then we got in the car and drove. It was about a 4.5 hour ride, and these are some of the interesting scenes we could see from the road. As you can see, the sky is a beautiful blue, and there was some interesting bodies of water along the way. This was a place that you could hike over to, but we didn't have time. So now we're at our first stop, Black Canyon of the Gunnison. When I first saw it, I was so excited. I yelled to Andrew, "Andrew, it's beautiful!" So we jumped out of the car at this area and went out and took our photos and gaped in awe. So I mention it later, but it's a half mile deep and goes on for about 14 miles. We were there in the afternoon, and the light was beautiful coming from the west.
Well, this isn't even the point.
You can see that the landscape around is relatively bland. Down at the visitor center. There's some mountains to the east, but nothing much to the west, and some plains and plateau. So lots of pictures of many different aspects of the gorge and canyon. I love to look down at the water. I love the light and shadows. And apparently the eastern side is much steeper because of the way the snow melts in the winter. The western side is protected from the sun mostly, so it doesn't melt as much, so there's not as much erosion. And so that side is a little bit more gradual. There were areas that you could hike down to the bottom, but they're fairly treacherous, and we did not want to do that. So instead, we drove along and hiked along the rim in areas and took lots of photos as the day progressed. This is actually the viewing point for the visitor center, which is really nice. And from there, you get a good view of the water. It's flowing sort of right to left here. And at times you could hear the noise from the rapids but other times it's fairly quiet. Cross fissures. Birthday boy. Andrew was much more tolerant of the cliff edges than I was. I could hardly stand to even look over the sides. Some of the areas were straight down 1,000 or 2,000 feet. This is the Painted Rocks area, I think, or the chasm. Not sure what mountains those are, but they're quite high. Very pretty. Andrew. I just walk over here. Every time I looked at this canyon, I was stunned. It was a great day for Andrew's birthday. He's 33. Those long shots of the water were some of my favorites. There you can see my shadow. And again, we're getting into the later afternoon, and the light was beautiful. But some of the shots were affected later, as you'll see. So this is chasm view. Looking down, I'm coming up the other side. You may be able to hear the water over my drone. Very, very pretty. And from chasm view, it's looking down at the Gunnison River. So it goes through the canyon. Following along. Zoom back. Show you the rest of the chasm. Too bright. There it is. The river's fairly narrow, and obviously it's taken millions of years for it to erode all this rock. There are little side canyons and separate islands of rock that stick out. It's getting pretty late in the day now, so Cedar Point, the light's getting tougher. This was about the end of our journey on Tuesday. It was very uncrowded as well, so there were only a few people out at each site when we were there, if any. Obviously, a lot of the shots look the same or very similar, but it gives you a better grasp of the whole scope of things there. That's looking way up towards the end of the northern part of the canyon, the Painted Rocks. It's getting close to about 7 o'clock or so at this point, with sundown in about a half an hour. And after these last few shots, we drove back and got dinner at a pizza place. We stayed in Montrose, which was a nice little town. There's a raven, the only bird that we saw pretty much the whole time. They have some hawks and some other raptors. This is now Wednesday morning, and we drove all the way around to the North Rim, which took about an hour and a half from Montrose. And there's a little hike, probably 3 or so miles round trip, that can go on and up to the top of a mountain. But we just stopped here and took some views with the light now coming from the east at a different angle. This side had less in the way of standard viewpoints, and you're right on the edge of cliffs a lot. So you'll see that I'm not very close to the edge in most of the pictures. Still just as beautiful, if not more so, from this angle. Andrew had much higher tolerance for the cliff's edge again. I love this picture. So much that it's in there several times. North Rim, chasm, view. One of the safer spots to stand. There's Andrew. My artsy shot. We worked our way back from the first viewpoint and then took the car. And unfortunately, we were low on gas, so I had to be a little bit careful about how far we went. And we were running out of time as well because we didn't have any lunch. But we kept going until the Balance Rock area, which you'll see plenty of shots of relatively soon. And you get some really nice views of the river on this side. Good examples again that you can see the trees growing on the spot's called Balance Rock. Western side, but almost nothing growing on the eastern side. Yet, but this is a very pretty spot. Sun getting a little steep. You can see over there that the slope is less steep. They say it's because in the winter the snow doesn't melt. For some reason I could never get the whole rock in one picture frame. Here's the Balance Rock. I think I was too afraid to hang over the edge. It's sticking out. This is a very pretty spot. Again, one of my favorite views. We went back and had lunch, got from a food truck some Thai, and then we went back in the later afternoon or early evening to finish the South Rim. So we went all the way to the end and did a hike out to Warner Point, which is the farthest point that's accessible easily. And from there was a nice little place to sit and look out. That's as far north as you get there with the canyon. There were some other people there, as you can hear, taking a lot of photos of themselves sitting near the edge, like Andrew. That's another artsy shot. Then we were waiting for the sunset, so we went to an area called Sunset View, and I took these pictures as the sun went down. It's very pretty. And then we hung around until it got dark, and we went to one of the other places and stayed out till about 9 o'clock and looked at the stars. On Friday, we went and did the Manitou incline, and I managed to do it fairly well. I just broke 50 minutes by 2 seconds, and although it was very hard, it was manageable for someone like me. Andrew was a little bit behind, and then we walked down another trail to the bottom and rushed back to his house so he could do an interview. Then that afternoon we went to the Cave of the Winds, which was a really cool cave, not very big. Tour took about 45 minutes, but it had some neat features, especially that ladder that came down from the original opening that they found the cave from. And there's some interesting ways it was lit. It was a nice little walk through. That's the Jaws, if you can see that, they call it, and then some of the big stalactites. And then on Saturday we went to Red Rocks really quick on the way to Denver before lunch, and then they dropped me off at the airport.